K-pop has seemed to reach the point where members of newer groups are debuting younger and younger, and if you're older, you're expected to look half your age. The youth of today are forced to grow up in a competitive environment, dressing older, behaving a certain way, and forced to dance and act out mature concepts. Sure, you could argue that it's always been this way, with Boa debuting at 13, Crystal at 14, Hyuna at 14, the list can go on. But what if I told you back in the 90s, an idol was forced to do the complete opposite to keep her career, molding herself to fit into the new role of being a freshly turned 20-year-old, when in reality, she was a whole decade older. Hi everybody and welcome back to Midnight Theories, and if you're new here, welcome to Midnight Theories. Today we are talking about the myth, the legend, the chameleon herself, the infamous Heejung, or better known as Ikai of Baby Vox. Join me as I explain how a 30-year-old woman and her company fooled the nation about her age for years, and trust me, you're gonna want to hear about this. Before idol girl groups such as SES and Finkel existed, there was saetorae, a dance girl group made up of members Wooina, Kim Jong-im, and the star of this video, Heejung, a trio of 19-year-olds which inspired the group's name. The group debuted in 1988 with their first single I Love You, and followed it up with Hemboke, an adaptation of American pop singer Stacey Q's Two of Heart. saetorae instantly gave new meaning to the word girl group. Of course, South Korea has had female girl groups in the past, such as bunny girls, who were marketed for all ages and sang trot music, but saetorae was one of the first dance girl groups to target the younger demographic. If you look at their choreography, you can think of it as simple movement compared to the sharp choreography idols perform today, but this was a start in the right direction and eventually led to the modern girl groups we know today. The trio were stylistically inspired by Japanese girl groups of the 80s, but more specifically to emulate shoujo-tae, a Japanese girl group who experienced a boom in popularity in South Korea and Taiwan during the years 1986 through 1988. They were also modeled after South Korean boy group Sonbangcha, who also incorporated dancing and acrobatics into their performances. Unfortunately, saetorae faced many hardships. Just like any artists who were active during this era, saetorae and Sonbangcha attended multiple of the same events, but because they were both dance trios, saetorae was often accused of copying the boy group who debuted before them. To add to the heat, both groups did a joint performance with the wedding concept. You might already see where this is going. It's been said that if any female artist were to perform with Sonbangcha, the female artist would receive death threats from the fandom. Sonbangcha's legion of fangirls were enraged by this performance, so much so that the fangirls found saetorae's brand new car and punctured the tires with nails and graffitied it before the night was over. To continue the hate campaign against the girl group, anti-fans would try to pick at anything they could to criticize the girls, which would also include their singing abilities and appearances. It seemed like these girls could not catch a break. saetorae was just too ahead of their time. The anti-fans and Japanese influence could have also been attributed to the lack of popularity. Rumor has it that the company eventually went bankrupt, but another one of the members left the company, so I can't really say the exact reason behind saetorae's disbandment, but because of their short activity, the group failed to leave a strong impression. After the trio's disbandment, the remaining members Yuna and Heejung switched to city music and rebranded as a dance duo called Tam Tam. With the rebrand, the duo changed their concept to something a little more mature and now went by stage names, with Heejung now going by Jisoo. The duo released 2 albums with their singles I Didn't Tell You and their follow-up single I'm So Stupid. But alas, the pair once again were met with poor reception and eventually disbanded after Wooina parted ways and became an actress, and Heejung graduated from university. With 2 failed attempts under the singer's belt, Heejung was about to give up when an unlikely opportunity came to her doorstep. Underground producer Yoon Dae-rang recognized Heejung's talent and knew she had potential. He eventually convinced the singer to sign under his label Dae-rang Planning, which is now known as DR Music. He managed to re-debut her as a solo artist and continued to use her stage name Jisoo from her previous group Tam Tam.
안녕하세요, 이지수입니다.
In 1993, she released her first solo album titled To You Who Forgot Me. This was also around the time where the singer's age was first altered, her birth year changing from 1968 to 1969, making her 24 years old internationally. At the time of her solo debut, a photo of her resident registration card circulated around the community. It raised a few eyebrows since there were still people who recognized her from saetorae and or her tam-tam days, but at this time, it wasn't unheard of for celebrities to lie about their age, decreasing or aging up by 1 or 2 years, especially if it meant better work opportunities. The phrase komojonai, which roughly translates to elastic age or stage age as we'll call it, was coined due to this being a common occurrence in the industry. Fortunately for Heejung, the situation was quietly buried due to her lack of popularity, and she was able to continue her solo career for the time being. She eventually released her second album in 1994, titled Sending You. The single became mildly successful as popular singer-songwriter Kang Soo-ji participated in writing the lyrics but was quickly forgotten. On the same album, the singer also showed off her talent as a singer-songwriter, presenting 2 self-composed songs under her legal name, Heejung, showing off her piano and songwriting skills. Failing to attract the Korean public for the 3rd time, Heejung surrendered her dreams of becoming a beloved singer and hid in the shadows for the next 4 years. After the failure of Heejung's solo career, the company needed to find a new artist to keep the company afloat. By the mid-90s, the Korean music industry was quickly reorganizing to cater to the boy group wave. There was also a lack of girl group representation during this time. CEO Yoon Dae-rang jumped onto the idea. There was no SES, Finkel, Chakra, or even TT Ma yet, so the timing couldn't be any more perfect. However, when you're under a small company with little to no money, you gotta make do with what you got. Heejung was recruited as the first member of Baby Vox, but tragically, she suffered from a serious injury while practicing the choreography and was unable to debut with the group. Her position was replaced and filled alongside the remaining positions, thus Isla's glimmer of hope seemed to extinguish right before her. Baby Vox would eventually debut in 1997 as a 5-member girl group. The quintet were managed by DR Music, who are now known for managing girl groups such as Black Swan, formerly known as Rania. Although the group is now known for being one of the most prominent first-gen idol girl groups alongside SES and Finkel, Baby Vox struggled for the first few years. After the departure of 3 of their original members, DR Music needed to find immediate replacements. At this time, the CEO planned to change Baby Vox's concept for their second album and actually switch it to a girl band. The group had already begun learning how to play the instruments, so they needed to find someone to take over the vocals and keyboard. DR Music seemed to have an epiphany of some sort and remembered their former artist Heejung could play the piano and plopped her out of the basement, figuratively of course. Heejung and Shim Eun-jin were recruited and joined the group in 1998, just in time for Baby Vox's second album. Heejung, formerly known as Lee Ji-soo, would change her stage name to Lee-kai for the remainder of her music career. So let's pause here for a little bit. I will now be referring to Heejung as Lee-kai for the remainder of the video, or just E for short. Just putting that out there so you don't get confused. With the addition of 2 new members, DR Music decided to drop the group's original edgy tough girl concept and scrap the girl band idea entirely after they saw the success of SES and Finkel's palatable innocent cute concept. Baby Vox dropped their second album with their lead track, Yeah Yeah Yeah. Peaked at number 7 on the music chart, which led to more exposure for the group. They even won their first major awards following their newfound success. Baby Vox were now reaching a new personal best and considered a major player competing with other big girl groups. With more eyes on Baby Vox, some fans noticed something unusual about one of the new additions, specifically Lee-kai. Kai instantly became the topic of discussion due to her mature features that were often obscured by sunglasses or hats, and let's be honest, it made her stick out like a sore thumb. Sure, stylists accessorize idols in a specific way during promotions to make them stand out, but the way Lee-kai was styled made fans believe it was done deliberately to disguise the idol's appearance. It also didn't help that she was typically positioned in the back during promotions, making the situation a little bit more suspicious. For the remainder of Yeah 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 promotions, Kai was typically styled with different colored sunglasses, matching the group's stage outfits, and was later switched to beanies for their second single Change in 1999. Without the sunglasses, fans were able to get a good look at the idol. Compared to her other members that were in their late teens to early 20s, Kai looked suspiciously mature for her age, which was reportedly 20 years old on her member profile. To add to the suspicion, many fans began to point out Kai's dancing abilities and failure to keep up with the intense choreography for Change. He was not as popular as her other members and often found herself at the center of bullying by the group's own fandom. Some would even go as far as to call her Ajuma, to poke fun at her appearance or criticize her for ruining the live performances because of her frequent choreography mistakes. Too many things were just not adding up, which led fans to look into the situation deeper. The internet wasn't as accessible as it is today, but people were still able to investigate, unraveling her true identity. Much of E's previous work is difficult to obtain, but there's still enough evidence to prove her past. Fans were able to match Guy's profile to an 80s teen singer Heejung and found out their educational background, date of birth, and appearance were identical. Somehow along the way, Guy's year of birth changed to appear 10 years younger than she actually was, 1968 being her real birth year, which was then altered to 1978. Fans were shocked that this woman was able to disguise herself as a 20-year-old for this long. With the news of Guy lying about her age circulated, fans brought up a past interview from Baby Vox with soccer player Lee Dong-guk. In this interview, the 30-year-old Lee Guy called the 19-year-old soccer player Oppa.
근데 오빠는 항상 골 넣으시면 상의를 이렇게 거꾸로 뒤집어 쓰시잖아요. 근데 너무 멋있거든요. 특별한 이유라도 있으세요?
Now that some time has passed, netizens think it's a funny clip because of the huge age gap, but before, it was used to mock Lee Guy. Guy's true identity continued to circulate on public forums and became such a hot topic that newspapers and news stations picked up the story. DR Music had to issue an apology for deceiving the fans about E-Guy's true age and would leave it up to the fans to decide E's fate. In the statement they said, Baby Vox needed a member who could lead the group after the original Uniline left, and Guy could fill that spot easily with her past experience and maturity. I'd also like to add a quick disclaimer. I cannot confirm if this next event actually happened, since there are multiple conflicting or unreliable sources, so take what I say with a grain of salt. But, allegedly, DR Music held a press conference where E tearfully apologized to the fans she hurt. In this alleged press conference, Guy revealed her father was very sick and she needed to work to pay off his hospital bills. This was also the reason why she joined Baby Vox. Many fans said she should have found a stable job if she was indeed in need of fast income. Majority of the group's fandom were not happy about the situation and demanded for E-Guy's removal. They did not want a woman in her 30s in a girl group where their image is supposed to be cute and youthful. They also felt the situation could have ended completely different if she had not lied about her age in the first place, but rather embraced it, using her strengths to distract from her age. Let's be honest, at the end of the day, it's all a money game. If E-Guy was a popular member with a strong and supportive fan base, then the company would have probably worked something out, but that wasn't the case. DR Music effectively removed E from the group without much discourse and began to hold auditions to find a replacement. 15-year-old Yoon Eun-hye would join the group and would fit naturally, completing and finalizing the lineup for the rest of their career. Members Kam Min-yeon and Lee Hee-jin have said in the past that E-Guy was a member that the younger ones trusted and followed since their difficult trainee days. Besides this, Baby Vox has stayed silent about the situation, besides a quick comment on Knowing Bros. E's story is one of the most well-known when it comes to celebrities lying about their age. As I mentioned earlier, it's common for celebrities to fib a little that it even has its own term. It was usually a 1 to 2 year age difference, but E surely takes the ballpark for the biggest age gap, or maybe not. In a similar situation in 2019, rapper Minty lied about her age when she auditioned for a program called High School Music Rapper 2. She auditioned as a 9th grader born in 2002, but she was actually born in 1992. Another 10-year age gap. Other idols such as Sisters Bora, Hyolyn, and Soyu were caught having different birth years after they left Starship Entertainment. To continue the Starship train, some of the WJSN members had different birthdays on their profiles as well. Some fans theorized that Starship wanted all the members assigned to a different zodiac sign for some concept reason, but who knows? There could also be other reasons why celebrities and idols have different birthdays, as explained by this post on screen. Although some time has passed since the scandal, there would still be some unacceptance of older singers debuting in idol groups. Some people in the community believe that even 20 years old is too old to debut nowadays, but this can be an entire video on its own. Before we wrap up today's video, I'd like to add a quote by Black Swan's Yoonhyun, who spoke about ageism in the industry. She said, "When you're in your 20s, you get negative comments about being too old for a girl group. Black Swan is a team of mostly mid-20s. I want to be successful, so the industry doesn't force people to give up on their dreams due to age." To this day, companies still lie about their artist profiles, but it usually pertains to their height or weight, some even going as far as to lie about their blood type. But who knows if there's still companies deceiving fans about an artist's age? It's unfortunate that some celebrities need to lie about their age to be a part of such a competitive industry, especially when they are forced to. Since her removal, Lee-guy, formerly known as Lee Ji-soo, but legally Lee Heejung, has since sadly retired from the industry and hasn't made a public appearance in 24 years. Her former saetorae and Tam member has since expressed her wish for the trio to get back together through a celebrity broadcast that covers recent statuses of retired celebrities, but this never ended up happening. Any new information I could find about the idol were from a few unsourced articles or comments online that claimed the former singer ran a bar in Busan in 2017, adding that her health was not well. It is now early 2022, which would make the former singer 53 years old if all is well. Her current status is unknown to the public, but perhaps it's for the best. It's no doubt that Lee was musically gifted, but her dream was ripped from under her before she could show her full potential. Do you think she could have won over the fandom with her strengths if she did not lie about her age, or would her fate not have changed? Let me know in the comments below. Unfortunately, Lee isn't the only idol to be humiliated out of the industry. Solo singer Ori was also mocked after her debut and was never seen again. I made an entire video on her disappearance that you can watch by clicking on the link in the description or at the end of this video. And with that being said, thank you for watching and enjoy your stay.